Hello, everyone. This is another Black Conservative. I am Ryan Bowling. Thank you all for joining me. A bipartisan group of senators came up with an idea for gun control. And as we all know, for the last few weeks, we've been getting a lot of talk about gun control, particularly from the Democratic politicians. Because of the recent shootings, they believe something needs to be done. So a bipartisan group of senators came up with an idea or a list of concepts that they believe would help deal with this concept of gun control. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to read this article. It's a relatively short article. I'm going to read the points that they have laid out in this gun control legislation that they're going to push. And I'm going to periodically give you my commentary as we go along. So let's get into this article right now. And it starts off, a bipartisan group of senators announced a deal on gun control legislation Sunday in the wake of recent mass shootings, though the compromise excludes President Joe Biden's, quote, assault weapons ban and a raised minimum age for rifle purchases. So that's, to some of us, that's good news, because Biden wants to ban what he calls assault weapons, and that would include handguns. And I'm glad that there are some sensible people in both the Senate and the House of Representatives, probably not the House of Representatives because that's mostly consisted of Democrats. They don't care at all. But I'm glad that there's some sensible people in either or of these either or section of Congress that's like, okay, we're not going to ban all guns. That's crazy. We're not going to do that. So the article goes on to say the deal includes Republican priorities such as expanded mental health services and school safety. It nods to Democratic priorities by adding expanded background checks for those under the age of 21 who will now have juvenile records screened before gun purchases. And I guess you can kind of say that's a good thing. But honestly, to be quite frank with you, I don't believe that this is going to stop mass shootings. But let's move on. A press release from the bipartisan group outlines the contours of the proposed legislation. And then it gives the bipartisan group of senators announcement agreement. It gives the different names. I'm not going to get into that, but this is what they said. Today, we are announcing, a common sense bipartisan proposal to protect Americans' children, keep our schools safe, and reduce the threat of violence across our country. Families are scared. Yeah, really. And it is our duty to come together and get something done that will help restore their sense of safety and security in their communities. Our plan increases needed mental health resources, improves school safety and support for students, and helps ensure dangerous criminals and those who are mentally ill can't purchase weapons. Most importantly, our plan saves lives while also protecting the constitutional rights of law-abiding citizens. We look forward to earning broad bipartisan support and passing our common sense proposal into law. The proposal includes support for state crisis. And I mean, I think that that's pretty cool. I think that that's working together, which is the whole concept of bipartisan law anyway, working together and stop, well, no, it's just for this group. No, it's not. It's just for that group. They're working together, and that's good news. So let's get into some of this. Let's see what we can cover here. I want to get into some of these. It says, one point is intervention orders. Intervention orders provides resources to state and tribes to create and administer laws that help ensure deadly weapons are kept out of the hands of individuals whom a court has determined to be a significant danger to themselves or others, consistent with state and federal due process and constitutional protections. Now, here's what I'm kind of leery at, because I see big government here. I see big government. See, all Republicans are not what we think they are. There are many Republicans, too, that are all for big government. I'm against big government. I'm for small government. I'm not against government, no government at all, like you have some people are. But I'm for small government. What I see in these so-called proposals and so forth and so-called points is I see big government. And I, to me, I'm not in support of that, because it states state and federal due process and constitutional protections. No, leave it in the hands of the state. That's what I believe. The federal shouldn't have nothing to do with this. But anyway, let's go on. Number 2, investment in children and family mental health services. National expansion of community behavioral health center model, major investments to increase access to mental health and suicide prevention programs, and other support services available in the community, including crisis and trauma intervention and recovery. Okay, that's not too bad, but the whole thing about the national expansion of community behavioral self-center model, that kind of, my spidey sense is kind of going up a little bit, because I read something some years ago in a book I purchased back in the 1990s. And I'm not going to name the book, I'm not going to name all the details of the book, but they did mention about big government. And one of the concepts that they mentioned in the book was this idea of mental health, that everyone who didn't agree with the government, who was in opposition to the worldview and policies of the government, who didn't agree with it, would be considered mentally ill. Think about that for a moment. Now, here in this concept, it says national expansion of community behavioral health center, major investments to increase access to mental health and suicide prevention programs. Yes, I believe there are mentally ill people. Yes, I believe the people who want to commit suicide, there should be suicide prevention programs available to them. But I'm always weary of government doing these type of things. I'm always weary of government doing these type of things, because to me, it slaps in the face of globalism. It slaps in the face of expanding the government's control in people's lives. But let's go on. Protections for victims of domestic violence. Convicted domestic violence abusers, this is point 3, convicted domestic violence abusers and individuals subject to domestic violence restraining orders are included in NICS, including those who have or have had a continuing relationship of a romantic or intimate nature. That's common sense right there. Funding for school-based mental health and supportive services. It's number 4. Is this number 4? Yes, number 4. My apologies. Funding for school-based mental health and supportive services. Invest in programs to expand mental health. See all this mental health stuff? See, my spidey sense is going up. Mental health. There are mental health issues that need to be talked about, such as the guy that took 10 people out, that traveled to Buffalo, killed 10 people. This individual that killed all these young people in the school. Yes, there are mental health issues going on there, but I'm just weary of this. Based on what I have studied in the past, I'm weary of this mental health thing. I'm feeling like, not saying for sure, but I'm feeling like this is a pretext or pretense for them to create more government control. It's almost like they're using this, not creating it, but nevertheless using it as an opportunity to expand more control. But let's go on. So it says invest in programs to expand mental health and supportive services in schools, including early identification and intervention programs and school-based mental health and wraparound services. I don't know what the heck that means. Number 5, funding for school safety resources. Invest in programs to help institute safety measures in and around primary and secondary schools, support school violence prevention efforts, and provide training to school personnel and students. Now, when you mean, see, this is what's creepy to me. What do they mean by providing training to school personnel and students? Are they talking about training with guns? I'm pretty sure they're not talking about arming the school teachers and staff with guns. I believe what they're talking about is training them in mental health. And like I said before, same issue here. Based on what I've studied, it seems like to me that they're using this as an excuse to screen out people that they would consider in the future to be mentally ill. Oh, you're against abortion? You're mentally ill. Or you're a Christian? You're mentally ill. Or you disagree with the communist socialist government that they're trying to create? You're mentally ill. This is how it was done. I'm telling you, this is how it was done in Russia, communist China. This is how it was done in Germany. This is how it was done. This is how they screen people out. They consider people who disagree with the government as mentally ill. Sounds funny to me. Not saying this is what this is, but it sounds funny to me. Let's go on. Number 6. Clarification of definition of federally licensed firearm dealer. Cracks down on criminals who illegally evade licensing requirements. Whatever. Ain't gonna do nothing. Number 7, telehealth investments. Invest in programs that increase access to mental and behavioral. See what I'm saying? To mental and behavioral health services for youth and families in crisis via telehealth. All this mental stuff. Mental. I get it. I understand. I talked about this before in one of my previous videos about mental health issues. But then I hit at some other stuff too that may go further than just mental health. I see that. To me, that I believe they're using this. It's my theory that I'm forming based on my studies and based on what I know. I think this is just a setup, but we'll go on. Number 8, under 21 enhanced review process says for buyers under 21 years of age require an investigative period to review juvenile mental health records, including checks with state databases and local law enforcement. And then finally, penalties for straw purchasing. Cracks down on criminals who illegally straw purchase and traffic guns. I don't know what that means. But if you guys know what that means, put that in the comment box below. Then the article ends on this. It is unclear whether the proposal can pass the 60-vote threshold required to defeat a legislative filibuster in the Senate, or whether the progressive-led Democratic caucus in the House would pass what they would see as a watered-down bill. And that's the end of that article right there. But suffices to say, okay, it's good and it's not so good. It's good in the sense that they come to a bipartisan conclusion on this. And it's not going to be an outright ban on guns, period. But, you know, the way the government works, man, sometimes I can't help but wonder if this is just a big setup. I hate to sound like a conspiracy theorist. I've had people calling me that, but I'm starting to wonder about a lot of this stuff. Is this just a setup to expand more government control? I don't know. I don't trust every politician, whether they're Republican or Democrat. I definitely don't trust the Democrats. And some of these so-called Republicans are not. They're only rhinos. Republicans are names only. We need to get people in office, local, state, and federal, that actually care for the country. Yes, they're going to need to raise some money for their campaigns. Yes, you're going to have people giving them. I get that. But please don't let the money and the control, and don't let the money mess you up, man. Don't let it mess you up. You don't let it mess you up. But this is what I'm thinking. This is just my opinion on this. I am glad that they have come to some conclusion, a bipartisan conclusion about this, but I'm leery of all the talk of mental health, because I believe, in my opinion, that these globalist elite are going to use this concept of mental health later on in the future as an excuse to censor out or screen out people that disagree with their globalist agenda. Their Marxist, socialist, communist, globalist agenda. And if you disagree with that, you will be considered mentally ill, because they did it in Germany. As I said earlier, they did it in Russia and China and other communist countries. They call these individuals mentally ill that disagree with the government. You mentally ill because you disagree with abortion? You mentally ill because you disagree with pushing transgenderism on the children? You mentally ill because of that? Think about it. In my gut, I believe that that's what it's going to eventually lead to. But what do you guys think about this? Leave your comments in the comment section below. If you like this video, press the like button. Share this video and subscribe. God bless you all, and see you again on another Black Conservative with Ryan Bowling.